When I said I wanted to make a chair at the Design Academy for my graduation, I got
Mhm.
quite a lot of negative responses on that, which I wasn't surprised by, but I think the responses were even more passionate than what I thought. Because my proposal was to make just a chair, which is a chair and not something else, not an investigation on something else, but on trying to make an object that is coherent in itself and serves a function of sitting, let's say. Why do you think the reactions were like that?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the difference between the school where I was and the design academy, because in the architecture school, I mean, it's kind of a random idea to design a chair. And of course, I mean, everybody knows that there's been, that it's almost like a cliche of architects or designers designing this sort of universal typology, but I didn't receive any of that sort of criticism of not another chair thing. Whereas in the design academy, it's really a thing. The way I explain it is that there's a complex about, in a school like the academy, that about being just a designer, just somebody who produces furniture, and the idea that the designer should be dealing with much more important things, and also that in a way there's something a little bit trivial about designing furniture or designing chairs, which is kind of an indulgent aesthetic exercise when there are so much more important things to be thinking about in the world. So in focusing, in terms of devoting its attention to a chair, the academy is in a way demeaning its own position, because it's not arguing for greater relevance, but it's just continuing this eternal tradition of designing chairs that we've been doing since we were sitting in caves. I think that's interesting. I think it's something that on the one hand I completely understand, because I think there is a problem, but I think it leads to more interesting conversations like the one we're having now, where the question is addressed critically. And I think that if the question is addressed critically of why do we still design chairs even today, then I think it's worthwhile, kind of legitimates the process. If it's done uncritically, where here's the exercise to design a chair for your second year or third year or fifth year, whatever it is, if it's handed down to you by the school on the assumption that that's kind of a necessary step for you to become a designer, is that you know how to design a chair, then I think it becomes problematic. So I can see why the academy does it, and I can also see why you sort of take the bait and return the provocation by actually deciding to do one.
If you were my graduation coach, so if I had come to you in the first place by saying, I want to make a functional chair in order to be able to say that when I exit the school, I'm able to take on a commission, for example, what would have been your feedback on that?
I would have probably challenged your decision, mostly to test that you were thinking about it critically, and you weren't just sort of, oh, should I design a bed or a table or a chair, or because I think there is a danger. Then some people actually do come quite innocently to the idea of designing a chair. Any work of design is ultimately the expression of your own identity and your own idea of the world. And when you design something, that idea somehow percolates down into whatever it is you're designing. And so what I would do is check that you have an idea of the world, and that as a consequence of that idea, you're designing a chair, rather than the other way around, that you're designing a chair just because that's what designers do. And that's what makes a project critical, is if it is articulating bigger things than itself. If a chair is just a chair, then it's a problem. If a chair is part of the universe, then I think that's more interesting.